And now I am back, and I'm going to talk about E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. This movie is Steven Spielberg movie, and Steven Spielberg is, in my opinion, the greatest director of all time. Just go down the filmography, and he's got Jaws, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Jurassic Park, and then even his films that are okay. That Tom Cruise one with the aliens, The War of the Worlds, or A War Horse, or a BFG. Those are his okay films, and I still have a lot of fun, and they're still fantastic movies. It's just when you have so many great movies, it's hard to follow up. And E.T. in June of 1982. This was before I was born. But this is not my favorite Steven Spielberg film. This is probably in my 4th or 5th place, but that's not because it's that bad of a movie. It's just because he's made so many incredible movies. It's hard to pick a top 5, or it's hard to pick a top 10. So when Steven Spielberg was coming up for the idea of E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, it was kind of a compromise because he didn't know which movie to make. He's like, I want to make a movie which is a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which what if the alien got left behind? But I had a tough time dealing with my parents' divorce when I was a kid, so I want to make a movie about a kid dealing with that. And instead of making 2 movies, he made 1 movie. And this is E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. And this film has some of the greatest child performances of all time. You look at Henry Thomas as Elliot. He was the only actor Steven Spielberg ever hired after only 1 audition. Somebody's like, hey, you should audition that kid. And he comes in with an improvised scene about, hey, how would you react if this guy was taking away your alien who was like your only friend? And he starts and he's like, don't take him, he's my friend, and he's mine. He starts crying, and Steven Spielberg starts crying. Kathleen Kennedy, who's the head of Lucasfilm and was a producer of E.T., starts crying. And then he's like, just stop, you got the job. And this is on the DVD of the movie, it's on the Blu-ray, and it is impactful. I'm holding back tears just thinking about how powerful this was. And that was the audition. Henry Thomas as Elliot gives not only one of the best child performances, he gives one of the best performances I've ever seen. And he's having a hard time with his brother. He wants to hang out with his brother's friends because he's a loner kid. He's close with his dad. His dad's not in the picture anymore. And he stumbles upon this alien. And this alien changes his life. And he has a friend to play with. And he gets real close to this alien. And not just he gives a great performance in this movie. You got Drew Barrymore that plays the sister, Gertie, and she gives an incredible performance in this. She's like, Elliot, what are you doing? What's that? Ah! And then she's watching the TV, and he's like, book, and it's like, ugh, and it's like, oh, he can talk, and the mom's like, who can talk? And it's like, ah, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. When she plays dress up with E.T. and it's like Elliot's like, what are you doing? Don't! And then they have incredible performances, but then there's a third kid in the film that has an incredible performance, and that's Michael. That's the other brother. It's like, you gotta keep a secret, And then he, after not letting Elliot play Dungeons and Dragons, he goes along and they're like, how do we hide E.T. from Mom? How do we hide E.T. from everybody else? And this movie is incredible because you just look at the way it's shot, and it's filmed from the eye of the child, where no adults come until the last third of the movie, the last quarter of the movie, and it's the only adult is the mother, and it's just about this small family, and they take this big concept of alien invasion, and they break it down into a boy, his mom, his brother and sister, and keeping it as a pet. And just from the opening scene of E.T., where you see the flashlights in the woods, you hear E.T. screaming, and then you zoom in on the keys jingling on a man's waist. And I don't know what to think. Am I supposed to say, oh my gosh, there's a spaceship. Oh my gosh, there's an alien. Or am I supposed to cower in fear? You get awe, you get wonder, you get fear in the same shot. All these emotions in one shot. And that is just a testament of how awesome Steven Spielberg is. You look at how many iconic scenes there are in this movie. The most iconic scene has to be the one with the bicycle in the moon and John Williams' score. And again, this isn't my favorite John Williams score, but when it comes on, it is a powerful score. And they actually re-edited they were having a hard time syncing the score with the scene, this iconic scene of them flying the bicycles over the moon. So they're like, let's turn it off. Let's record the music first, and then let's re-edit the scene to be with the movie concisely. And this is never done, but they did it, and it works, and it's incredible. You just look at the bond between Elliot and E.T. From the first time where you see E.T., where Elliot he throws a baseball, and it lands in the shed, and it just comes back, and you're like, what the heck is that? But this has so much terrifying moments, but they're terrifying and wonderful at the same time, and all these emotions all at the same time. You look at the scene where Elliot is in school, E.T.'s home watching TV, he goes to the fridge, grabs a beer, drinks a whole 6-pack of beer, and how Elliot's feeling that same effect because they have that bond, and then he's watching a Western, and it's about how killing is wrong, and then Elliot's like, we have to save the frogs, and that is such an impactful scene. And this whole movie is impactful, and this whole movie is really thought-provoking, and this is one of the greatest, most iconic movies of all time. And when I was watching it, I couldn't help but think about E.T. because it's set in the 80s, and they got child performers, and every movie with a kid performer is going to remind somebody of E.T. just because of how great the child performances are in E.T. And besides being a great movie, E.T. is still part of our culture today. He's in Lego Dimensions, is one of the characters you can get for Lego Dimensions. And he is one of the factors they ruined Atari. They made more cartridges for the Atari 2600 than they did of the Atari 2600 for E.T. And then they ended up having to bury all of these cartridges that didn't go sold for E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. And then George Lucas and Steven Spielberg are very great friends. So George Lucas joked that, how about you have E.T. show up in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and he is sitting in that Senate seat debating politics. You just see a quick shot of the E.T. species, but he's there. And then, because they're close friends, you have, when they go trick-or-treating with E.T., they put him in a Yoda mask, and that's a great. And I love E.T., and I'm showing you some of the reasons why I love E.T.